Hi, Glennis.
Hey, Aaron. What do you want to talk about today?
How much I hate diets.
Yeah, diets suck.
So what do you do instead of a diet?
Intuitive eating, health at every size.
So how many times have you had to explain intuitive eating and health at every size to someone?
Like 5,000 times. But that was just to my doctor.
Okay, so how many times have you explained it to someone and then they said, but diets are the only thing I know?
That's like every time. Can we pursue health without thinking about weight?
Yes, we can pursue health without thinking about weight.
That's pretty revolutionary, what you just said. But what if you just don't like yourself at the size that you're at?
I think we need to understand why, instead of just saying I need to change.
So what's the deal with body positivity?
Oh man, that's a long answer. I'm Aaron Flores.
And I'm Glennis Oyston. And we are
Dietitians Unplugged.
Welcome back to another Dietitians Unplugged episode. I'm here with Aaron Flores. I am Glennis Oyston. We are registered dietitians who hate diets.
Yes, that's us.
How you doing,
Plus
Aaron?
so much more.
Plus so much more.
What's up, Glennis?
Not a whole lot. Life's chugging along.
Life's chugging along, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so...
don't know why I said not a whole lot. I'm like busy, crazy busy all the time.
Yeah, you never return a text.
That's just simply not true.
Maybe I'm blocked.
Yeah, I think so. I don't actually get yours because I blocked you.
Yeah.
JK. What's going on with you?
Oh,
Still
so
seeing
much.
clients
Still seeing clients.
in your expanded, beautiful office space?
Yes, I have like a suite.
I know.
I have
I'm
a suite. I have like a
super
waiting room.
jealous.
I have another office to rent out to someone. I have a big old office for groups and hopefully some meal support. And
Yeah.
we'll do some podcast recording in there. You might hear an echo. We'll have to dampen that out.
Yeah, in the Dietitians Unplugged studios.
Our Dietitians Unplugged studio might actually have to move locations,
Good Lord.
like one office.
Good Lord. I don't know if I can handle the change.
Sponsorship opportunities are available.
I continue to work in my very small office, but yeah, things are going well, seeing clients. And as usual, for both of us, if you are struggling with eating issues of all kinds, please get a hold of us. You can find Aaron at his website at bvmrd.com. And you can find me at my website, daretonotdiet.com. So give us a call.
Yeah. And we would love to help. Absolutely. So today's episode is one for the fellas.
Yes.
Yeah, finally. I think we haven't had like a male focused
We do one
discussion
once a year.
since Andrew Wallen.
Oh, oops. Sorry, dudes.
Yeah. Well,
Admittedly, I'm not sure that there are that many dudes listening.
if you're a dude listening, just lift your hand up so we can see you right now.
Oh, yeah.
I see a few.
All
I see a
right.
few.
All right. It's
All
cool. It's cool. Or maybe leave us a message on
Oh, yeah.
our Facebook page.
Yeah.
So we know you're out there.
Awesome.
And what you want to hear.
Totally. Well, this one is definitely for the fellas. We are very fortunate to have Bruce Sturgell on our podcast. And for those of you who don't know, Bruce Sturgell, he's a husband, he's a father, but he's more importantly to our context right now, he is the founder of chubster.com, the site that helps big men find, create, share their big and tall style with the world. He is created this site I think he said about 5 or 6 years ago. And it has grown into sort of like a lifestyle site for men of size. And he's come at this sort of started in the fashion area, but has sort of branched out into many other things. He is really, I think, one of the few men in this area really doing so much when it comes to fashion. And I think sort of trying to aggregate different information into one location. So it's very exciting to have him on. I got to meet him in Portland last May. We shared a beer and it was great. I was like, he should come on our podcast.
I'm jealous. I want to meet my fat fashion icons, blog icons at some point. So
well, you just got to ask him.
Maybe we just got to ask him.
Yeah.
I know you said this is for the fellows, but
Yeah.
I would say this is still valuable for everybody because he's part of, obviously beyond a fat fashion blog now. He's like a whole lifestyle website. But he's one of the sites that I include when I'm helping clients to sort of normalize larger bodies as they're struggling with their eating issues. And because we just don't see larger bodies in the media at all or in anywhere around us. We're unless you're looking just on the street. But when you're looking at billboards in LA, they're all thin people. So we start to think that larger bodies are not normal to look at. So what I do is I have my clients look at fat fashion blogs, and his is one of them because we want to see, both men and women of size, of different sizes too.
Yeah. And I think the other common theme is that he's come at the notion of body positivity and accepting our body from a fashion angle, not as like necessarily from where we are, right? From a food angle, but we meet so much in the middle. And so it's great to have his expertise in this area to talk about really starting to feel comfortable in our own bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. So here is our interview with Bruce Sturgell of Chubster. Enjoy.
Bruce, thank you so much for coming on Dietitians Unplugged. It's so great to have you here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, us too. I've been, we got connected because we were on a similar list created by Jess Baker, I don't know, probably like 3 years ago, like of 7 men in social media that you have to follow. And I think you were number 1. I think I got bumped down to maybe like 5, but I saw this picture of you and I was like, this dude is awesome. How do I get to know this guy? And I finally got to meet you in Portland. So it's like our worlds continue to collide, and I'm so thankful.
Yeah, definitely. It was a long time coming for us to finally be able to meet. So I'm glad that finally happened.
Totally. And by the way, Bruce is a great beer connoisseur too. So if you need some info on like what's a good beer to try, you should hit Bruce up because he knows his stuff.
I'm always willing to answer beer questions and give recommendations.
Well, if maybe there's beer stir down the road.
Yes, hopefully so. That would be perfect. That would be the next thing.
Well, okay, so that sort of feeds right into the first question is tell us how you started Chubster. Tell us, what it is for those people who don't know, and how did the sort of initial concept come about, and how has it evolved?
Sure. So Chubster is a men's big and tall lifestyle site. So it really started out as a fashion site for big guys. I started it about 7 years ago. At the time, I lived in the Midwest, and I was in a small town in Southwest Missouri, and I was a big guy, and trying to find clothes that I actually wanted to wear in my size was pretty difficult. And so, in the town I was in, they had the mall and they had the big and tall shop. And the big and tall shop didn't have anything that really catered to me that I would want to wear. The mall, I would find some things, but I was right there at that line where sometimes you could find some things you wanted to wear and sometimes you couldn't. So I would go to the mall. I would leave empty-handed more often than not. And after doing that over and over, I was really frustrated with that experience, and decided to do what everybody does these days and go to the internet, create a blog, and complain about my experience. So basically, it was just me kind of starting to do that and kind of sharing my thoughts on some of these brands that either weren't carrying extended sizes in store, or they were making it difficult for you to find those things online. And so it was really just talking about those things, calling them out, and then also sharing looks that I had put together, because I realized that I was able to find some things if I put a lot of work into it. And so I would share those looks and talk about where I got them. Out of nowhere, a community grew up out of this. People were asking for advice. They were sharing the photos. They wanted to know where to get things. I realized that there was probably more to this than me just complaining about what I couldn't find, and actually creating a resource. And so I basically set out to find a way to build this into a brand and to find the worst name that I could find to make it really stand out. And Chubster was born officially in March of 2011.
I love the name Chubster, actually, and I have often referred to myself as a Chubster. So,
well, good.
I'm so glad that there's a site named Chubster. So I'm like a huge consumer of fashion blogs, and that's sort of how I started my path to body positivity or self, body acceptance. When I first sort of dipped my toes into this world, and there's just like a ton of fashion blogs now for women, and I think it's really changed the fashion industry quite a bit in the last, I'd say even the last 5 years, it seems like, where there are just so many more options for women living in larger bodies for clothing, if only online at times. Are you seeing that happening to men's fashion yet, or not quite yet?
We're starting to see progress. It has taken a long time. I mean, when I started doing this, I was really I was seeing the women's plus size fashion bloggers, and I was seeing the people on Tumblr, and it was really starting to grow there on the women's side, and that was great. And so I saw that and just realized that there was nothing that really catered to me, as a guy looking for different kinds of things. And I just realized that there were no resources, and so it has been, I've been doing this for a while now, and I haven't seen a lot pop up until recently. The last few years there have been Instagram has been a big part of it. You're seeing people on Instagram popping up, and they're doing kind of their influencer thing there. You're seeing people who are starting to really reach out and kind of talk about the men's side of things. That said, it is still, it's way behind the women's plus size movement. And it's still slowly growing. There really aren't a lot of resources right now, but there are figures, I guess, in this movement and kind of in the industry at large that are starting to stand out. And these companies are really starting to come around. They are starting to see that there's an opportunity here.
Yeah. So when I sort of noticed that as well, just on the periphery, and I think I'm not even in the fashion world as much as you are. But I would also love to hear when you mention just like you being in a small town with just like a couple options, right? The mall or the big and tall store. The thing that I sort of see also is that like it's the big and tall stuff that they sell seems to have changed also. It seems to be like there's more attention to having a fashion sense instead of just jeans and a polo. Is that what you see also, or is that just me just maybe having better eyes and seeing it more because it's more important to me now?
No, I think you're right. When I started, I realized that reaching out to some of these bigger brands, these companies that do big and tall men's fashion, or big and tall clothing in general, was important. And I wanted to kind of get to the bottom of why they didn't offer anything in extended sizes, and why they didn't offer anything stylish in extended sizes. And as I talked to them, I realized that they had and have a large customer base of people who are older. The average customer age for two of the biggest big and tall brands are 45 and 64. So you've got an older customer that is not looking for the same kind of fashion that maybe me, when I started this in my late 20s, early 30s, was looking for. They are, however, starting to see that there is interest here and that there is a younger audience that they want to hit. And as their current demographic gets older, they realize they need to reach this younger audience. And so they're looking at what they're interested in, and that's more fashionable options in their size. And so little by little, they're making that change. But the big problem is that these companies kind of have a dilemma in that they have to figure out how to reach this new audience without alienating their current base that brings them tons and tons of money.
I also was just thinking about the name of like big and tall stores.
Yeah.
I think they need to rebrand, first of all.
Totally.
Because I was sitting here thinking, like, obviously I've never shopped for men's clothes. Is it like for men who are big and tall, or can you be like big and short or tall and thin? Like who's, who are these stores for? I just think they need a new name. Just as you were talking about, I was like, big and tall, who is allowed to go into these stores and shop? So, yeah.
I totally agree. I think some of these brands are starting to get away from that. You're starting to see Destination XL is kind of pushing away from big and tall as a term, and they are trying to, I think, maybe normalize it a little more. They realize that just because you fit into a category called big and tall, you don't necessarily want to be called big and tall. And that is also a term that it kind of fits with an older generation, and I think that brands are starting to see that isn't necessarily what the consumer wants to be called. And so the problem is that as of right now, there still needs to be some kind of classification. There needs to be some kind of term that lets us know that, hey, you can get this kind of clothing at this store. And so, we've got tons of terms that have popped up, and I mean, they run the spectrum from big and tall, plus size, brawn, husky. I mean, there are a bunch.
It's so interesting how the language is so different compared to the conversations with women. Like, I don't know. I just think, like, I remember anyone who wore or even had to shop for husky jeans.
Oh my God.
Like
I had to shop for husky jeans.
It was such a, almost a badge of shame.
Yeah, it
right?
was. Yeah, totally. I don't want to be like 11-year-old husky girl.
Right.
I mean, I was, but I didn't want to be known as that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm also wondering too if this idea of the big and tall, it's like, this is a problem within women's clothing where they just assume that if you're much wider, you're also much taller. And that's a big problem for me. So of course they're coming out with more like height sizes, like petite. Do they sort of have that category in men's fashion too, where it's like different sizes, like different heights versus just different sizes?
Yeah, so they have XLT sizes, which are for taller guys. They have the XB, which is extra big. That is normally what I go for. I'm short and wide, so I'm 5'8", 5'9", somewhere around there, and so I'm a pretty average, little maybe a little shorter, and everything that I buy is either too long, needs to be altered, or it just doesn't fit quite right. So yeah, they're doing that a little bit. Some brands are starting to really get into it, which is cool. Others are still kind of figuring that out.
So I think one of the things that I really remember from our conversation in Portland was I asked about sort of how do men start embracing some fashion in their lives, and figuring out aesthetic and figuring out, what is going to resonate. So, if you wouldn't mind, just for those of us, and I sort of include me into that, what are some like really important must-haves that we need to have in our wardrobe? And it might not even be size dependent, right? I mean, just like for any man to feel like they got a wardrobe that is reflective of them, what are some things that they really need?
Sure. So I think there are a couple of things that kind of build the foundation of understanding your style. And, when I started Chubster, I knew that I needed to come up with a mission statement, and I kind of made that. I built it around what I was really looking for, as far as kind of figuring out my own style. And doing this whole thing has been me learning what I like and figuring out, kind of navigating my way through this, finding my own sort of style. And so the mission statement is that Chubster helps men of size find, create, and share their style with the world. And so to find it and create it, there are some things that you really need to know to kind of get started. The first thing that I would say before you do anything else, well, I'll say there are two things. Number one, look at people that you would consider as style icons. Look at people that wear things that you really like, or that have a certain type of swagger that kind of fits. Because I think style isn't just what you wear. It's how you wear it. It's how you look when you're in it. It's your personality, your attitude. There's a lot that's built around that. And so look for people who have style that stands out to you, and then you can take the steps of trying to find those things and put together your own looks. So that's number one. Number two is vital. You need to know your sizes. So not just I wear a double X. You need to know. Uh, you need to have your actual measurements, because especially when you're a big guy, you're shopping online a lot of the time. There aren't a ton of stores that you can go into where you're going to be able to find things that fit you that you actually want to wear. So you're relegated to shopping online. The online shopping experience is getting better, but it can still be very frustrating. So really a lot of what you need to do is make sure that you're looking at fit guides on different sites, because you might go to Target and their 3X shirt is very different from what you would find at DXL for a 3X shirt. Like for me personally, I'm wearing my sizes run anywhere between 1X and a 4X depending on the brand. And like for my waist, I generally wear around a 44, but depending on the brand, I mean, it can be a 40 to a 46 or 48. So the way that you get around that is by having your actual measurements. When you have those things, then you can look at those measurements and compare them to the fit guide on whatever website you're on, and you have a much better chance of getting something that actually fits you the way that you would want it to. So that's really where you start. As far as what you need in your closet, basics and that kind of thing, I could throw out a lot of it's good to have one suit that you can wear, that you can wear for any kind of occasion. And sure, it is. But I think where you really want to start, especially just being a bigger guy, you want to start with things that are going to make you comfortable, but that kind of push out of your comfort zone just a little, that kind of push it forward. I don't want to say things that make you feel uncomfortable, but you should find clothes that are not your everyday kind of attire. Add a little something to your look. If you're a jeans and t-shirt kind of guy, look at some different jackets, look at blazers, try to find something that stands out and kind of go from there. Add little pieces. And then as you start to do that, you'll see that, exploring and trying different things is really important. And then you can really start to think, okay, I work in an office every day. I need these kind of looks for Monday through Thursday. Then casual Friday, I want to be something other than my jeans and t-shirt. How can I do this? And start kind of branching out from there. I think, for me, I don't work, my dress code is kind of whatever I need it to be, because I do Chubster all the time. So, I'm not looking for suits necessarily. I might be looking for different types of jeans that I like, or some chinos that I want to pair with a cool patterned button down. I kind of try to just shake it up and think about, what I actually need and what I'm realistically going to wear on a regular basis. And then I kind of go from there.
Do you recommend like those wardrobe box services where you sort of get things on a monthly basis?
I think it is worth trying if you have, if you know your measurements and you want to talk to someone and kind of go through the process of letting them pick things out for you. It's worth a try. I think there are some good ones out there. I really like what the Winston Box is doing. I think what they've put together and kind of the way that they are trying to cater to bigger men is really interesting. I think you can't go wrong with having someone who kind of knows style and understands bigger bodies helping you put together a look. So it's worth a try. I think you should test things out and just kind of see what works. And also, I mean, the internet is a great resource for a lot of things. There aren't as many resources as we want for bigger guys, but we try to put a lot of guides out on Chubster and different things like that. And we're really going to be doubling down on those things as we go into fall, because I think there are a lot of people out there who have questions about how to put together looks, what they should wear, for different occasions, for work, all of that. And so, doing that research definitely helps.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just wondering what some of your favorite brands are for right now for men of size.
Sure. I think that we are still at a place, at least for me personally, I'm at a place where um, there isn't one shop that I can go to for everything and find things that fit. And really, most people don't want to do that. You want to have variety and kind of go from there. But I know that Bruce 10 years ago would have been perfectly content to just find one place, buy all my stuff there, and just be done with it. I feel like that's where a lot of guys are kind of starting. As far as brands that have really started to get it right, I'm pretty impressed right now with what Target is doing with Goodfellow and Co., which they just launched a few weeks ago, and it is kind of taken the place of I think some of their Massimo and Morona lines, and it's modern. They do basically everything. I mean, they do jackets, shirts, pants. I mean, it runs the spectrum. I think they even have shoes, and they do sizes to, I believe the waist sizes are 60, and the tops go to 5XB, and maybe 4XLT. So they have extended sizes in clothing that you would actually want to wear, and the quality is there. I've picked up a few pieces myself just recently, and I love the way that they feel and the way that they fit. So super impressed with what Target is doing. MVP Collections is another one that I've been really impressed with. I think they have a very particular kind of style, and I think that can work well for people. And one of the things is that you're not seeing a lot of variation in styles right now. In big men's clothing, because there just aren't a lot of options. So getting to see brands like MVP Collections that are kind of getting out there and offering a variety of things, or Brandon Kyle Menswear, which is, in my estimation, it's more of a high fashion kind of look. He was recently in an article in Esquire, talking about what getting started and kind of what he's doing. And I love the fact that, we need a plus size, high end men's fashion brand. We need those things that you see in the mainstream for mainstream sizes. And we're starting to get some of those. So, there are a few other brands that are kind of popping up. There's a brand out of Australia called Gulliver. So it's, instead of Gulliver, it's Gulliver. And
include accent with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so they do some really cool. They do some really cool things. It reminds me a lot of kind of Gap, but made for bigger guys. I think there's some really good options there. Like I said, the Winston Box, I love what they're doing, and I think that there are a few other brands that are starting to get into it. I think ASOS has some interesting options, and it was cool to see a large brand, or a well-known fast fashion brand, kind of get into the men's plus size game and just start offering options. My only recommendation with them would be order at least one size larger than you normally would. There's still some quality things I feel like they're kind of working through as far as fit and all that good stuff. But I like what they're doing. And for years, literally, people have been writing into Chubster asking for clothes in their size at Old Navy prices. And so ASOS has kind of stepped up to do that. So you know what you get with that, but hey, it's great. And it's, there's style there and people love it. So yeah, those are really, there are a bunch more, but those are the few that stick out to me right now.
Awesome. We'll put links to those in our show notes too. And hopefully people will use them then.
Awesome.
Yeah. Seems like there's actually some choice right now. So I said earlier, like, I used fat fashion blogs as a tool to help sort of for me normalize larger bodies, and then also to just see, oh look, cool clothing is available. And I also use them, for my clients. I send them to, and yours is one of them. I send them to these sites to sort of see just a variety of bodies and looking really cool in nice clothing. How do you see fashion as a tool to helping men embrace their bodies at whatever size they're at?
So I think there are a lot of different ways that that you can be an activist. And for me, with starting Chubster, part of it was kind of a way for me to I guess be more of an activist. I can't ever really see myself just being out there and being uh, as good at just taking on the political side of body positivity or fat activism as say Jess Baker does, who I think is amazing, and she is able to just take it on and just run with it, and she does great work. But I look at myself, and what makes sense to me and where I felt like I could make change was through Chubster and through fashion. And I think that I call it subversive activism because it's not as much in your face as saying, fat people deserve respect. It is more showing that this is possible. I wanted to create aspirational images of bigger men looking great and feeling great about themselves, being happy. It's too often that when we see bigger people portrayed in the media, they are the villains, or they're lazy, or they're super sloppy, or things like just really put in a negative light. And I didn't want that to be the narrative with Chubster. And so being able to show bigger guys as models wearing clothes that anybody can find out there has been a great way to move forward, and it has really kind of it's helped grow this community. And I mean, the response that we see from that, because when I started doing this, you really weren't seeing that anywhere. And just seeing this grow and seeing that that you are worthwhile no matter what your size, I think we're able to say that without coming out and just saying that. And I think that's an important kind of on-ramp to fat activism and body positivity that I think is sometimes needed.
Absolutely. And I think, what I notice is that when you are struggling with how you feel sort of inside your body and what your body looks like on the outside, to have clothes that fit and that sort of represent your style actually really does a lot for how you feel internally. I mean, I feel like we walk differently. I feel like we carry ourselves differently, especially when clothes fit. We feel good in them, no matter what our size is.
Absolutely, and part of it is fun. I mean, I think that there's just this notion that when you're fat, you're not having fun. That you can't enjoy life unless you fit into a specific size range. And being able to show that, we really started out with Chubster just being focused on clothing and resources for finding clothing and fashion, and it's really branched out because I started thinking, okay, I'm not, I'm a fat guy, but I don't spend all of my time thinking about that. I'm watching movies, I'm going out to find new beers, I'm spending time with my wife and kids, I'm doing all of these other things that have nothing to do with my size. And I wanted to have a place to kind of showcase that side of life and to show, people out there who are doing amazing things who happen to be bigger, and I think that all of those things kind of play into sense of self and showing that you can feel great about yourself no matter your size. And it's vitally important.
I love what you said about, like, you don't think about your size 24/7, which I was just sort of talking with Aaron about this earlier, saying the whole point of the work we do and, sort of the work you do, I think, is around body acceptance. It's so you don't have to think about your size all the time, and you actually just get to go and live this really great life that isn't just based on how big you are, or in our case, like talking about food all the time. So I just kind of love that you said, like, it's not just, you're not just thinking about your size, and you shouldn't have to.
Right. And it's that was another thing specifically about food and drink, is that early on I was a little afraid to approach those things and talk about food and drink, because I feel like, obviously those things are sometimes used against people who are bigger as this negative thing. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, why would I shy away from that? Because food and drink and enjoying your life is something that everybody does, and we all have permission to do that. So why not showcase those things as well? And so, we have done that in the past, and we're going to do more of that as we start to really get into doing more video and just more content in general. I just think that I don't feel like we should have to tiptoe around certain issues. I feel like we should be able to embrace what life is as a person of size, and I think that's so important, and I feel like that is part of why Chubster has been successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that to me, as a sort of a witness of what Chubster has done over the years, I mean, I think that's such a important evolution too, in how initially maybe it was conceived of and where it is going in the future. So I think that's great, because again, as a man in this community, we hear it all the time for other marginalized voices, but representation matters. So the fact that we can see men who are in larger bodies doing all the other things that other men are doing, and not tiptoeing around it or shying away from it, I think is really important for all of our sort of healing in that area.
Absolutely. I think you're totally right. And I feel like, and I already said this, but I'll say it again. I think that what I really want Chubster to be is kind of that on-ramp to all of this. I want it to be an easy way for people to, number one, realize that there is that there's a world out there of fat acceptance, body positivity, and that there are actual options for them. There's a community here. Once they see that, they can kind of dive in and learn more about other people who are out there who are doing amazing things in these different areas. And I think that I think about myself having lived in Southwest Missouri, in a place where it's not the most supportive when it comes to not fitting into, to being different.
Yeah.
And so, now I live in Portland, Oregon, totally different situation. The people are pretty amazing. It's been a real different experience, but I like to think about where I want Chubster to focus and who I want it to hit. And I really want to be able to get I don't know, that dude in Nebraska who feels like he has no options, who feels ostracized. I want someone like that to see that there is this world here, and that they can be part of it.
Yeah, and I think when there are more options available for clothing, the other thing that does is, for us, selfishly, like Aaron and I, non-diet dietitians, is like removes one more barrier to like people giving up diets and like normalizing their relationship to food. So like some of the reasons that people might say they want to lose weight, oh, there's no clothing available. It's like, well, not now. So it kind of removes that motivation to continue their disordered relationship to food, which is what dieting is. Dieting and losing weight is just a disordered relationship to food. So yes. So thank you for doing this work and helping to expand the choices that are out there.
Yeah,
sure.
So I just, we're recording this here in September. So you just released your first episode of Sized Up, I think a couple days ago. I already watched it and loved it. When you mentioned Winston Box, I was like, oh yeah, that was the dude who was talking about, you got to have the shirt that fits. So when I stretch my arms, it feels right, and so I loved the episode. So tell our listeners what your vision is for Sized Up. Where can we watch it? And what's going to be the sort of future for that show, and maybe future things to come?
Sure. So Sized Up is our first show. It's Chubster's first show, and it is the idea behind it is that Sized Up helps big guys find clothing that they actually want to wear in their size in cities around the country. And so we know that you already know about the major retailers. You know where you can go. You can hit a DXL. You can hit these different places, and you know about those. But a lot of cities have options that maybe you don't know about. And so what we decided to do was basically cross the country. We hit 5 different cities, and we have 5 episodes that are going to show you where you can shop for clothes in your size that are kind of off the beaten path. And so the first episode came out on Friday, and it's focused on LA. And so LA was really interesting to me because there's a lot of focus on how you look, and looking a specific way. And so I really wanted to look at resources that were there. And so, these shows, it's kind of like a Travel Channel kind of format or a Food Network sort of thing. And you'll be following me around as I go to these different places in these cities. And so in LA, I went to the Winston Box. We met with those guys and kind of talked about what they're doing, what they have to offer for fall in their boxes. We also went to the Plus Bus boutique, which is also there, and they have a masculine clothing section, and got to kind of learn about a place in the real world that's kind of a safe, happy space for plus size people to go, where you can hang out. They have events. They do all kinds of different things, and it is just a really cool place to know that there's a place in the LA area that you can go to that's like that. I was also able to try on an outfit that was way outside of my comfort zone, and so it's been fun just kind of doing that. We also hit a JCPenney in each city, and the show is actually sponsored by JCPenney, who kind of understood what my goal was with SizedUp, and that I really wanted to show these other options. And I explained to them early on, hey, so we want to hit these smaller shops and designers, and you guys are okay with that? And they totally were, and they totally understood that what the show is doing is kind of showing people that this community is out there. And so we hit a JCPenney store in each city with the guest. And so Daniel from the Winston Box was kind enough to come with me on my trip through LA, and we went to JCPenney, and he talked about how he shops and what it's like to what he looks for and how he puts together looks, really kind of things that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. You kind of go to a store and hope for the best. And so, we go through these different things and, just kind of show what it's like to shop in these cities. And the new episodes come out every Friday. And you can find them on chubster.com, and at our YouTube page. It's a YouTube /Chubster official. And so, we're putting them out. We're going to, we did LA, we're doing Portland, Atlanta, Detroit, and New York City. And that will be season 1. So I'm really excited that we have this and that we put it together and that we're getting it out there for everyone to see.
You're like the Anthony Bourdain of fashion.
That is exactly right. When we started this, we started talking about what it would be like and kind of what we wanted the show to be like. And I said, like no reservations, but for fat guys. So
I love that analogy. But you don't have nearly as many tattoos, and I don't know if you hate vegetarians as much as he does.
No.
That episode was great. I mean, I when he was in JCPenney and said, I don't know how to shop. I have no fucking clue how to shop.
Right.
I don't know it's very overwhelming. I walk in and there's all this stuff on racks and I'm like, I don't even know where to start. And when he said, I just look for a purple shirt, I'm into purple right now. And he started there. I was like, oh, I could do that. I could just pick one thing that sort of inspires me and go from there. It was really helpful. So as a very poor shopper audience, well done.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear, because that's really what we were going for, is we wanted it to be entertaining, but we also wanted to offer kind of a resource to say, hey, look, here is what somebody else does who's been able to pull this off successfully. And I mean, even for me, I'm still not the best shopper. I'll go out there and kind of just randomly look at things, but now I keep other things in mind if I'm looking for a specific type of look or a specific color. I mean, there are a lot of options, and it really helps to hear those things from someone else.
Well, Bruce, I really want to thank you for coming on. This is super helpful and very informative, and I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of it. Again, just can you spell out Chubster for us, just so that we make sure we get the right URL? Because I'm sure there might be a wrong one out there.
Sure, yeah. So you can find the website at chubster.com. It's CHUBSTR, Chubster. And you can find Sized Up. The episodes come out every Friday from now until the middle of October. You'll find them at chubster.com and over on our YouTube page at Chubster Official. We're all over social media as well at Chubster. It's just Chubster. So yeah, definitely please check us out.
Awesome. Well, this is a great area for men to sort of start to embrace their bodies, and the work you're doing is helping a lot of people do that, me included. So thank you, and thanks for coming on our show today.
Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. This has been another Dietitians Unplugged production. You can find Aaron at bvmrd.com, and you can find Glennis at daretonotdiet.com.